Greetings, bones and ghouls, and welcome back to INDIEWEEN. It's that time of year where, despite the ever-bloated prices of a AAA game, I show you a bunch of indie games whose prices all total up to the cost of a single AAA title. And oh boy, can $80 get you a lot of indie. I am also going to be showing you how to do a ton of tasty and high-protein meal prep recipes with the full recipe and standalone videos available for free, because I can. Now let's get into some weird games. Coming in at the lowest price of this year's INDIEWEEN at a dainty little $6.99, which, by the way, I list my prices before any discounts are applied, we have Brush Burial, a game a lot of you have been asking me about, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to showcase at this INDIEWEEN for many reasons. One of which being that it's a neat little box stacker. The other is that by sheer luck the sequel's coming out next month, but more on that later. Let's steal some things and stab some dudes. Welcome to Brush Burial. You are a very slippery creature who is very good at going fast. Your character's name is Fennel, and they are what's called a sea breather, an amphibious hominid who seems closer to nature than others you might find in this world around you, and they are inherently distrusted for that. Or maybe it's because they're fast, sneaky, and very good at murder. The movement for Brush Burial is certainly a stumbling block for some, and I can tell you that I am thankful I accidentally neglected to record my first go-round of the tutorial because I was really struggling. It's slippery, it's faster than you're used to in a stealth game, and there's a lot of stuff that you're normally not able to do in a self-centric game, like climbing up almost any surface, or being able to move not only much faster in the water than compared to dry land, but also you can shoot out of the water like a submarine cruise missile to cross large distances and stab people from 50 yards out. It'll take most of the first half of the game just to get down Fennel's movement and really learn the limits of what you can and cannot do. But what is Fennel up to in Brush Burial? Sneak, steal, shoot, stab, steal. The main objective of the first half of the game is to find some pretty flowers and to place them on pedestals at the start of the area, and I'll admit I had to look it up to realize that you can just shoot right up through that little waterfall you came in on because the movement is that ridiculous. Fennel has a prehensile tail that is not only used for a grappling tool, but also to great effect once you learn it can be a means to stun and disarm enemies. Fennel is very much better at stealth takedowns than upfront fights, and lucky for you, there are no gameplay mechanical or moral consequences to rapidly and drastically increasing the iron in someone's bloodstream. You are expected to stab your way through the gutters. Enemies detect you pretty fast, but you can also break that detection pretty fast. Are you sensing a theme here? I'm surprised Fennel isn't blue and a lover of chili dogs, or maybe they are, I don't know. There are plenty of swords, knives, and blunt things to use against people in the gutter, but there is also gun. Particularly rifles, pistols, and silenced things. Guns have ammo separate from them, and ammo takes up an individual inventory slot, so boomsticks are a big commitment. If you know what you're doing, you can take someone out from literally all the way downtown, but if you're not, you're going to find yourself in a tough spot once you whiff the opening shot. But enough about violence. I can't believe I just said that. Let's steal some things. There's coins just lying around asking for you to swipe them, but there's also lots of gemstones and such that can fetch a nice price if you've got a buyer that doesn't care to ask questions. Good thing there's a guy who can literally manifest his store wherever there are dark, mossy places to buy that stuff off you, as well as sell you snacks, swords, and more gun. Gems take up inventory space though, but lucky for you, the merchant also sells a magical bag, which, while it does need to be equipped like a weapon to use, allows you to instantly sell anything you find in the overworld, which is like anything worth selling to him at all. You can just put it in the bag and it instantly sells it to him. This is a literal game changer, as it allows you to skip a lot of run back to sell things. It's a one-way trip though, so if you need some healing items or ammunition, you're gonna have to leg it back to wherever you last saw an entrance to his shop. If you remember a few minutes ago, we had an objective to go find some flowers and put them on pedestals, which will open up the brambles right behind you where we started, and that's sort of whatever. We're here to steal stuff. Brush Burial's first half is very much a stealth action sandbox where there are all sorts of ways to either sneak around people in all the little rooms and sewers, or find neat and exciting ways to watch them explode. There is no sense of urgency, and if anything, the main objective just feels like something you're gonna do while you're out. There's keys to find that'll help you progress to new parts of the gutter world, but those keys aren't one of a kind, and there are plenty of places to find each color-coded key. There's a city hub at the area near the end of like the first half where you can talk to people, buy drinks, get damage from the guards. Oh! It's snack time. 1 second. We need to get sprinkles. Sprinkle time, sprinkle time, sprinkle time. It's hard to do this in just a second. I didn't even intend for this to happen. I just lost track of time working today. The boy loves his sprinkles. Did you even like hear him there like demanding, why are you taking so long to open my sprinkle bag? Where were we? There's a city hub area near the end of the game where you can talk, buy drinks, get damage from the guards with spiky shells on their back, but not a whole lot of serious objectives, at least not that I could find. It's a cool place to hang out and a nice place to be able to learn a little bit about wherever you are though. Go put those flowers on pedestals by the talking head guy things whenever you're feeling like it. Meal prep time. This video, we're doing a recent mainstay to my meal prep rotation, slow-cooked pork shoulder with veggies and rice. I personally consider this a side grade from traditional pot roast as, while the pork stays much juicier than the chuck roast beef even after freezing and reheating, and is much more flavorful, it is also much fattier than using just plain old chuck roast, and you'll have to plan around that accordingly for nutritional stuff. The other thing about this pork roast that makes it a lot more enticing than beef pot roast is that pork shoulder is about the same price per pound as chicken breast, which makes this much cheaper than traditional pot roast. I'll have the calories and macro approximations in the description of the standalone cooking segment over on Patreon for free if you're curious. So the first order of business is to get the pork shoulder lightly seared and then get a sauce started. Take out your pork shoulder and lightly salt it for a bit to let the salt do salt things. Once about 15 minutes to up to an hour has passed, we're going to rub all the sides of our pork shoulder cuts down with a Cajun-style seasoning blend. I'm using this one from Costco, which is where I get the pork. And then we're going to get a high-walled saucepan going on medium-high. Once the pan is good and hot, get some olive oil in it and put a couple cuts of pork shoulder at a time to get the sides browned. We're not cooking these fully here. We just want a little crust on all the major sides, and then we're going to transfer these cuts into our slow cooker. A word to the wise. If you've got the average size 6-quart slow cooker, try to put no more than 7.5 pounds worth of pork shoulder, like on the label, into your crock pot, or you're gonna have some problems, as I found out the hard way. There's a reason I do this how I do this. Don't forget to add a little more oil into the saucepan between batches of pork shoulder, since we've got a lot of stuff to cook and the oil will cook away or get absorbed by the pork as we go. Don't worry about all the stuff forming on the bottom of the pan, that is intended. Once you've got all your pork seared and in the crock pot, take a diced onion, toss it into the pan, and lower the heat to about medium to medium-low. As the onions start to cook, they'll sweat, and that'll start to loosen up the crust of the pork stuff on the bottom of the pan. That is called fond, by the way, in case you've never heard the term before. Gently push around the sweating onions with a wooden spatula to make sure they cook evenly and to further loosen up that fond. It's not all going to come loose from the pan, but it'll get close enough to where the next part of the cooking process gets it all off. Now we're going to take one 500 milliliter bottle of boxed red wine, I'm using a Cabernet here, and pour it right into the saucepan. Give that a couple minutes for the alcohol to cook off, and now as you move the wooden spatula across the bottom of the pan, the fond will come right off and mix into the wine and onions. This is called deglazing in case you've never heard that term before. Keep gently stirring with your spatula to get everything mixed in, and then towards the end we're going to add some dairy to start the process of the sauce. I'm using a heavy cream here in the video, which is positively decadent, but also adds just over 100 calories to each portion. Half and half is a middle ground here, which is listed in the ingredient list over on the Patreon, and as a rule of thumb, skim milk should be used if you're trying to cut weight, half and half as a middle ground, and heavy cream if you're bulking or just want as much flavor as possible. Once the dairy product of your choice is stirred into the mix, carefully pour it all into the slow cooker over the seared pork, get the lid on it, and set it to low for 8 to 10 hours. Okay, now let's do the almost everything else. You can get these parts done basically any time of the day that suits you, since you've got at least 8 hours before you need to do anything to the pork and sauce. One of the things you'll need to do is get your rice cooked, which is great for this dish as it does a wonderful job of absorbing all the juices from the pork. Thoroughly rinse your rice by putting it into a fine mesh strainer that you might sift flour through and running that under the sink until the water runs out clear under the rice. Then cook it according to your bag's instructions or your rice cooker's instructions if you got one of those. Once it's done, portion it out into 10 to 12 containers, let it cool, and then pop these in the fridge until you're ready for the everything else. You'll notice I didn't give you an exact amount of rice here, and that's because one of the easiest ways to modulate the calories per portion of this dish is to just alter how much rice there is. Like, yeah, the choice of dairy does a lot, but the real thing that really can take this from 500 or 600 calories to nearly 1,000 calories is how much rice you want to use. You can go as low as about a quarter cup of uncooked rice per portion, or all the way up to half a cup and beyond if you want a whole lot of carbs. Now, how about some veggies? You are just what are you doing? What are you doing? Can you see him? Do you know what this lad is doing? Because I don't know what he's doing. He could be doing anything down there. I'm onto your tricks. I'm going to tell you now that you should just double what I did here on camera. Unlike what you're seeing on the screen, I suggest cutting up to a 2-pound bag of whole carrots, 2 whole stalks of celery, rinse off and dump a whole 24-ounce container of baby bella mushrooms, and any other veggies you want to add to the mix. Now lightly oil the bottom of a casserole dish, and then throw it all in, and then put it in the oven at 400 degrees of freedom heat units, or 205 degrees of funny baguette units depending on your region. Cook to 30 to 45 minutes depending on how roasty you like your veggies, and then when they're done, distribute them all among your portions of rice for later. We are almost at the finish line. Oh hey, look at that! Through the magic of video editing, our slow-cooked pork is done. Now we're going to check the temp of the pork and then make sure to keep the warm feature off before partially uncovering and letting the meat rest for 30 to 45 minutes. It's going to take at least that long, since not only is the stoneware of your slow cooker very good at retaining heat, but we also have a lot of mass in there right now. Once it's rested and retained as much of its own moisture as it can, you can either use a kitchen spider or a colander to scoop out all the roasted pork, weigh it out, and then distribute that among your portions of rice and veggies for the meal prep. This should yield between 6 to 10 ounces per portion, assuming you are making a dozen portions. Do not throw away the juices, we are not done yet, and that is our sauce. Instead, pour those juices that we've got in the slow cooker into that high-walled saucepan that I hope you cleaned sometime in the last 8 hours, and then set it to medium-low. Finally, what we're going to do is start slowly sifting in about half a cup of flour while whisking vigorously to get everything together and a sauce to start to form. This will take less than 5 minutes. Once it's good and thick, distribute that sauce over your pork, veggies, and rice so that not a bit of flavor goes to waste. Let it all cool down a bit, and then once everything is cool enough to be safely added to the fridge, let those get down to cool temperatures in the fridge overnight, and then transfer any portions you aren't going to be eating in the next 2 days into the freezer for storage. When you eat one portion out of the fridge, take another one from the freezer and put it into the fridge so that it will be thawed by the time you're getting to that one. Now, as a part of INDIEWEEN, this and all the other full recipes are available on the Patreon with standalone videos for free. It's my way of sticking it to all those shitty meal services that charge exorbitant fees for mid-tier food at best. If you'd like to support me, I'd run that Patreon where anything you can kick my way helps me fight the good fight, since I don't like taking sponsors. Think of it as cutting out the middleman and supporting your favorite creator, and then using all the money you saved on whatever product you'd normally have to buy through a link or something to support them, and just buy the groceries you need to make more meals for a much better price with much better control of what's going in them. Seriously, I looked up the prices on some of these services and it's nuts! But let's get back to the video. Okay, so we finally got all those flowers, and now we can pass through the brambles into that portal that leads us somewhere. I got no idea. Welcome to the second half of the game. If you've heard of Brush Burial, you might have also heard that things really take a turn in the second half, and not necessarily for the better. Well, the first half of the game is a semi-linear sneak and stab 'em up that feels like what would happen if we gave Garrett from Thief a case of Red Bull and the Space Lube from Space Station 13. The second half of Brush Burial can be best described as a bunch of movement and challenge puzzles. I'm glad I spent as much time as I did goofing around in the first half of the game and getting really acquainted with the movement, because otherwise I would have been immediately filtered like a lot of people were. So something that's a big sore spot on this part of the game is that it can be really, really hard to figure out the puzzles on top of puzzles, but also so much as figure out what exactly you're supposed to be doing here. I'll admit that after trying a few rooms I went back and looked up what the heck I was supposed to be doing like a chump, and I do not regret it. Who knows how long it would have been taking for me to figure out the overall objective of the temple, and then how exactly I'm supposed to go about it just on my own, like really. There are hints and clues, but everything is in riddles and like cipher puzzles or like deciphering symbols. The puzzles in the temple can be so movement intensive that at times it starts to hurt your fingers, or in other cases very tedious. All the room puzzles themselves are easy enough to figure out what to do, but there's something else you need to do on top of the puzzles themselves, and of course the game does not clearly explain what that is or what you're supposed to be doing with what you might find. That's fine. That can either be intuited eventually or just take the easy way out like I did, but my complaint with these puzzle rooms is that they reset every time you leave and enter them again. Meaning that if you have to go back for something or accidentally enter the wrong room, because unless you know how to operate the symbol thing, it is random, you have to do that puzzle all over again. I think they even like added like these finger items that you can find later on to help like really remove some of the randomness, but I'm not sure. I think they might have been there from the beginning. This is nearly a year after release I am playing. Some of these puzzles are so tedious but compelling enough so that the first time around you're able to get through them without too much complaint, but they become an absolute slog the second and third time around when you realize they're the exact same thing as last time and that it's just a step away from being a time waster. Not all of them are that bad. Some puzzles do have a sort of shortcut to them if you know how they work at the very beginning, but there are some that turn out to be essentially like hold W and occasionally press E to do the thing, just with a few extra steps. Like it's literally one of them is follow these very dim lines until you get to the button. So there is some sort of story here regarding the sea breathers and whatever else is happening in this world, but unfortunately I couldn't figure out much of it. I'll admit this is in part because I did start getting pretty far into the puzzle progression for the second half of the game and was almost to opening the big door. But then I got some really bad luck in one of the few puzzles where you can actually die, and died. After realizing that I hadn't saved recently, meaning that I'd have to replay and RNG my way through even more of these same puzzles, I tapped out. I don't feel any shame about it because this wasn't what I came here for. It was, nice if you were explicitly looking for a series of movement challenges and puzzles associated with the base game, but now that I say that out loud, it feels like this was maybe more like a pack of challenge maps that might have been a free DLC in another game, and it just ended up becoming part of the main game since they ran out of things to do in the first half. I don't think I need to know what's behind that door. To wrap it up, I think that at least the first half of Brush Burial is a neat little game, and it's so cheap that I don't even care that the second half was a miss. If anything, the second half is so disconnected from the first half that it's not much of an inconvenience that the second half is like it is. I'd even still recommend it on the grounds that you should just play the first half. It's even less of a problem for me because Triss, the developer of Brush Burial, has been showing lots of teaser stuff for Brush Burial 2, Gutter World, and it looks like it's a lot more of the first half plus a ton of other stuff like character customization, violent takedowns, and even more stealing. Even better is that it's slated to come out next month. Personally, my fingers are crossed that Brush Burial is more like a taste of what's going to be more fleshed out in Brush Burial 2. Heck, maybe if you're not feeling it based on what I've told you here, the second half like stuff, it might be better to just wait for Brush Burial 2. So between Brush Burial and Zero Protocol earlier this week, and yes, I said earlier this week, we are at a total of $18.98 so far. I know that we're moving faster than usual, but we've also got a lot of indie to go over if we want to make it the full AAA pricing. Next week, we're going to go over a much more recent release than I usually do during INDIEWEEN, and that's going to bring us up to $33.97. I hope you all remember to stock up on film for your old cameras. In the meantime, if you like this video, please make sure to leave a like and maybe a little comment to help this video on its journey through YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to see the next one once it comes out, and check out all the Patreons for all the cool recipes and stuff that are for free during INDIEWEEN. Also, I'm going to be live over on Purple Land playing spooky games right as this video comes out. You should come by, and if you've got Prime, you get a free sub you can kick my way, which gets you access to the Discord and really helps me out in general, and I appreciate anything you can send my way. Let's sign off for now. Remember that no matter what you do, be it sculpting, making music, or sliding around every surface like some kind of very slippery missile, what you do should never be called content. It is art. Content is a word that in recent years has been made into a means to grind up all your skills, passions, and aspirations into a gray sludge, meant for nothing more than to make a line go up. Your art in no way deserves that. Art is sacred. Art is inalienably a reflection of its creator by the very act of its creation, and in no way do you deserve to be reduced to content. So get out there and fight for yourself by fighting against the contentification of everything. Stay saucy.
Look at this boy. Just absolute bliss. A nice, warm, sunny spot on the carpet where the sun hits it. Wobbles and fluff all out. The sinner. You just got it so good. Having the most lovely of mornings, aren't you? You had your snack. Having a nice lay down in the presence of me, which cats just like that. They like being in the presence of people. You only come and snuggle at night. I swear he knows. Right as like I'm about to actually go to sleep, like he'll hop up on the bed. I just hear his like collar go like that. And he's like 6 inches from my face, like pet me. Like now he wants none of that. Like look at that. Just ruining his naps. But like right as I'm about to go to sleep. I think it's just also the joy of I can bother daddy. Because you're just a little bother boy, aren't you? Thinking of ways to bother mommy and I. What a fluffy boy. Oh no, we've pissed him off. His tail's thumping. You know, I think that's a valid reason to be pissed off is someone ruins your naps. I'll let you go now.